You are listening to the Mobile, Alabama Business Podcast with Marcus Netto, created by Bluefish.
My name's Andy Vickers with the Keep Going Foundation.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the podcast, Andy.
Thanks, man. Glad to be back.
I know. So this is round two with Mr. Vickers, and but we figured that it has been such a long time since we had talked before, and screw it. You're a good dude, and we like what you do, so we're going to have you on the podcast.
I appreciate that, man.
And I also just wanted to address, we're just getting started again, but, this is your first time joining us, welcome. We kind of took a little hiatus there for a little bit.
Yeah. This is actually my first podcast in 3 years.
Oh, really?
2.5, somewhere between 2.5 3.
Yeah.
First time since I've been back.
Podcasting is a little bit weird with, a pandemic going on.
Yeah.
I prefer in-person,
for sure.
Interviews, and doing it over Skype or something was just kind of and then everything came back, and we just never got started again. So here we are.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah. Well, refresh us a little bit. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your story? So tell us a little bit about where you're from and a little bit of your education and background and stuff like that. And then we'll
born in Arlington, Texas.
Okay.
But grew up in Mobile. I'm a Mobilian. Was here since about age 3 or 4, somewhere in there. I always just say I'm from Texas because it's a good conversational piece. People go, oh, me too. I'm like, well, I'm not really.
Yeah.
Went to Murphy High School, graduated from there, went to South Alabama, graduated with a management degree with a focus in entrepreneurship. I went through the first entrepreneurship program there, which is funny.
I think it's amazing. Do they still have that program?
They still do. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's come a long way. I'm currently on the board of the Melton Center for Entrepreneurship, so work with them a little bit on how you teach entrepreneurship, right? Because a lot of it's hands-on, and through creative internships and stuff, you can get that, but really hard to learn entrepreneurship through a book.
Yeah, you'd say.
You get one idea of what entrepreneurship is, and then you go, I like to say, just get kicked in the nuts by life and business, and then you realize
100%,
okay.
Yeah.
So we try to prepare the kids a little more for that now, what they're signing up for, but did that. The dream was always to be a professional wakeboarder, so went to do that full time right after graduation. Had saved up a little bit of money and said, I'm going to go for this. And 3 weeks after I walked across the stage, I snapped my foot.
Yeah.
So I got what's called a Liz Frank injury. Basically, my toes touched my shin. Rehabbed it again for 9 months. Didn't walk for 6. Boom, another injury, another surgery, and I said, I'm done with this.
That just hurts me thinking about it.
I'm going to go with plan B with the business degree and try to go that path. And from there, built a couple brands in the tourism industry with Gulf Coast Dogs and a restaurant, which was a one-time thing, never again, ever, for me personally.
Which one was that?
Sylvia's Biscuits and Po' Boys. It was in the Fort.
That's right. I do remember that.
It was great food, horrible for you. Tasted great, though.
Tasted great.
It was some good old Southern cooking.
The location was difficult because I don't think people really knew that it was there, but yeah.
Free rent.
I get it. I get it, yeah.
Even with the free rent, though, clearly.
Yeah.
But so I exited that to start some gyms with a private equity group. So I opened some F45 training studios. And while I was doing that, also launched a real estate brokerage with some friends called Well House Real Estate. And basically...
That's 3 things, right? 4?
There's more than these are just the ones we're talking about.
Yeah.
But was involved very heavily politically with Mayor Stimson's last re-election campaign, just a bunch of different things, and I burnt out. So just crashed and burned, no motivation, pretty much locked myself in my condo on the river for about 2 years. And would let my phone be dead for a few months at a time. I think I'm down to 40 something thousand emails now, and only a couple hundred text messages. So I'm chipping away at it a little bit, but I'm back participating in life, and it's been awesome, man. And anybody who doesn't know me that asks where I've been, I just told them I've been on Mars meeting with Elon and the aliens, and that we have nothing to worry about, dude. They don't want any piece of what we got down here, so we're good.
I feel that, yeah. No, it's interesting how, and we've talked a little bit about it, I don't know that I know the full story. It's interesting how the pandemic kind of affected people in different ways, right?
Yep.
And I don't know that we've really kind of fully sussed all that out.
Still, yeah, we're still seeing the effects of it.
I think people are still kind of, and I'm not just talking about the economic effects or the business effects or the job employment effects or anything like that. I'm talking about the mental effects of having been home for, a year and a half oftentimes stuck without any real kind of, we were lucky at the time. We were living in the Highlands apartment complex over off of 65, and so it was easy for people to kind of congregate in some of the common areas, and we were able to keep conversations going and personal interaction and stuff. But it's just weird, man. Like
it was, and I didn't think it affected me. Right? I thought I basically got a vacation, and luckily, the fitness industry tanked, but the real estate industry boomed.
Yeah.
So I didn't suffer financially, but I built a lifestyle around all of this free time that I'd never had because I was always in either athlete mode or startup mode, right? And started partying and got into some things, then tried to, when the world turned back on and all the businesses were running again, keep those same habits.
Yeah.
And so that's eventually I was burning the candle at both ends, right?
Yeah.
So I crashed and burned, but I've been, working with some neuroscientists and doing panels and blood work and all this stuff. And we're realizing like effects from COVID, like isolation and just false sense of reality, how it affected so many people. Because a lot of people were also getting government money. And it's like, it has to come from somewhere, right? And we've seen some of the effects of that. And we had crazy interest rates. It was just an unprecedented time in history. So that definitely contributed. And then a lot of it was head trauma from water sports injuries.
So a concussion.
Concussions. Before we knew what
CTE?
CTE was or any of these things, when we were wakeboarding, there would be weeks where I'd have multiple concussions, knowing now what the symptoms of a concussion are, right?
Right.
And so doctors believe that I had damaged my pituitary gland, which produces testosterone in the male body, right?
Right.
And so while I was an Ironman, training 3 times a day and a serial entrepreneur, all of these things, I was doing it with about half the testosterone that most people were walking around at.
You were never big. You were always really lean and really fit.
Always
and looked
fit.
like you could run from here to Mars.
But always had to work very hard to maintain that and be extremely strict on my diet. Then, dude, when I locked myself in the condo, I didn't even have Uber Eats app on my phone prior to September 2021. Then for 2 years straight, that's the only way I got food.
Yeah.
So I had a weed dealer who delivered and Uber Eats, right?
Yeah.
And with that whole journey, I went, at first, I couldn't sleep for like 30, 45 days. I was kind of in what we would call like a manic state, just frantic pacing, worrying about all these things like, my world's crashing.
Yeah.
Went down to 145 pounds.
Golly, dude.
From 170.
Yeah.
Then over the course of 2 years, went up to 245.
I've seen that way before. That's not a good look.
Not a good look. Then, I started training a little over 90 days ago, and I'm about 55 pounds down now.
Nice,
so
dude.
It's been gnarly, and there is such a thing as muscle memory and all that, but all that to say, it can happen to anybody, right? My life was dedicated to fitness and being an endurance athlete, and mental health can literally make you completely rewire who you are.
Well, and it's also, I think, and this is a reality check for anyone that's listening, because entrepreneurs are sometimes very self-aware, but also at times can be blindsided with things.
Absolutely.
I would say that you are not only very aware of physical fitness, but you were also very aware of like mental states and, thinking, ways of thinking and, just, being...
I studied it. It was my hobby, right? Neuroscience and all this. It's funny. I would go sit down with a therapist over the last 2 years, and we'd start talking. I'd tell him, I'm having this issue, and this is the reason, and this is the problem. And he's like,
so you've already figured it out.
He's like,
what am I here for?
This is odd. Well, clearly I couldn't solve it on my own, right?
Yeah.
But I knew, and that almost made it more frustrating when you have a chemical imbalance in your brain, but you know that it's happening. So I could almost step out like a third person watching a character in a movie and be like, oh, well, this is what you're doing, but there's nothing you can do to change it.
Yeah, I get that 100% because I am on testosterone and have been for 6 years or so.
Yeah.
And have been recently been diagnosed with ADD or ADHD or whatever the hell it is. And so
I have that as well.
And taking medicine for that. And so one of the things that, everybody that takes Adderall or any of the amphetamines talks about is when you come off of it, sometimes it makes you very irritable. But one of the things that has been very helpful is Chrissy, my fiance, told me, just, hey, stop being an asshole. And, so now I have to, I switched drugs, so I'm now on an extended release, so it lasts longer, and I'm more aware. Having somebody kind of show you like, hey, you when you come down off of this thing, you're kind of a jerk at times.
You'll notice that the fuse is shorter.
Yeah. And so now but it's that self-awareness, it's almost like you pull yourself outside of yourself and you're like, okay, I'm about to do this. Is that going to be a jerk?
Yep.
Or can I reword that in a way that it's not going to be a jerky thing to say?
Yep.
So
most people don't pass it through that filter. No, it's just reactive.
It just comes out. Yeah.
I've got to get you in some cold plunges with me. It is curing the ADHD. Like, it is
really
absolutely. It's changed my life.
Okay.
Early morning.
I'm up for it.
It's great. And then, you don't have to do this crazy.
No.
People do it for 15, 20 minutes.
28 degrees right now.
Exactly. I'm using my pool at the condo right now.
Gosh, I don't know if I'm looking forward to that.
But literally 2 or 3 minutes. Yeah. You'll get the cognitive enhancement that you need. And it's literally like you could eliminate 2 cups of coffee out of your day if you're a crackhead like me.
Yeah, I'm a coffee drinker.
Okay, so I drink half of my normal amount of caffeine.
Well, this is not an endorsement, but it is kind of an endorsement. I used to take Alpha Brain.
Okay.
And nootropics have worked for me in the past. I took some literally yesterday, and I don't know if I have no scientific data on this. It's maybe placebo effect.
Even if it is, if it works.
But man, I got to tell you, even with the Adderall, like the Alpha Brain, just, like the memory, being able to recall things. Because one of the things that I was experiencing after COVID was I just couldn't, I'd be sitting here and I'd be like, okay, I know his name. I've known him for like 10 years.
They call it long COVID. So they've diagnosed it as long COVID.
Yeah.
But people thought that was just the people who were dealing with breathing issues.
Yeah.
It's cognitive, a ton of things. And we believe that some of that also contributed. I basically had the perfect storm, right? Of all of these different, some lifestyle choices I made.
Right.
Some COVID effects, some brain trauma from water sports,
and then just
some business partners,
can't do business, can't
did
operate.
Certain things, personal relationships, all of it at once. That was what led to it.
Well, I'm glad that you're sitting here with me.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. I didn't think I ever would be again, even up to really early September of this year.
I mean,
of last year.
Because there are a lot of people that probably wouldn't have made it through, something, along those lines.
And I probably wouldn't have if I didn't have hundreds of people constantly reaching out to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it really showed me how, especially like we've always talked about how Mobile, because we've both been on the West Coast and seen cities with giant amenities and all these things, but how you don't have that close-knit community feel, and how you can't, make 2 phone calls and basically connect with anybody in the city.
Right.
That's huge, and that was definitely pivotal. There were many times where I was planning my exit and somebody just happened to come beat on the door of my condo.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have a gate code to get in, and of course I wouldn't reply to people who are like, hey, I'm here, what's your gate code? I'm not leaving till you tell me. I'd be like, all right, you're gonna be there all day, right? Yeah. And I literally had real estate agents looking it up from other listings in my complex on the MLS to see what the gate code is to get in and pull my tax records and know what unit I am.
Wow.
So just people who
they wanted to know what
wanted to check on me. Yeah. And
but you're good.
I'm very grateful for it. I've never been better.
And so what have you found that has helped? Because I'm sure that there are other people that are out there that are, experiencing some of the things that we're talking about.
Yeah.
What have you found that's helped?
The biggest thing for me, dude, was just realizing if it was something I could do on my own, I would have done it the last 2.5 years, right? So I believe in God, and I have quit striving to do everything on my own, right?
Yeah,
that doesn't mean I'm lazy, that I don't do my part, but realizing yo, dude, you're a speck of dust in this entire universe,
100%.
right? And there's something bigger than me that is in control.
Yeah.
So that helped a ton. Then building a career around my life instead of building a career around my life, rather than back in the day, it was a life around my career.
Yeah.
I didn't have hobbies. I didn't have free time. No wonder a lot of my relationships failed. You got to invest in those just like you have to a business or anything else. So building a life that I'm able to sustain, and not simply just saying, well, how much of my health and well-being am I willing to trade for this certain dollar amount, right? I grew up not very financially stable.
Same.
And so I always had a scarcity mindset, not even realizing it. Because as I tasted success and climbed the ranks, you would think that would alleviate the pressure.
Yeah.
It's, hey, I have this giant cushion.
But you have this nagging
Only
voice
made
in
it
the head
worse.
that it's
Because it's
always
like,
going to go
I
away.
could lose all of this.
Yeah.
It's
You
like,
get a
that's
taste of
so
it.
backwards.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's very cliche when people say, like, rock bottom's the best gift you could get. Like, I literally have tiptoed around bankruptcy and liquidated assets and getting on a payment plan with the IRS and all of these things. But it's literally been my greatest, like, asset now because I know, dude, rock bottom isn't that bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Having a couple $100s in an account, but with a healthy brain, I will take that any day over having 6 figures liquid in an account, so stressed that I have to smoke 3 joints to go to sleep every night.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's just put a lot into perspective for me and allowed me to realize, like, yo, even if you fail at everything, like, you can't just try again.
Yeah. It is, you talked a minute ago about, trying to prepare students for entrepreneurship and, how do you prepare them for getting kicked in the balls every day? Mm-hmm. And, like, I really do, like we were talking about it beforehand, there was something that happened over the course of the last year, and it's like everybody that I talked to in business just says that the last year was one of the roughest that they've ever experienced. And I've been in business since like 2007. Mm-hmm. So I went through 2008. It was not like last year.
Right.
And some of that was, we were involved in a lawsuit. We had a client that left us with a very large bill. And, just like you, I'm having to make a lot of those same decisions of what assets can I liquidate to pay off the debt that was left with me that I didn't ask for, that I did, I did the job that I was asked to do and did it, faithfully. And all that stuff, but it didn't matter, and also, having to deal with some back tax issue and stuff like that. And, but I find that those people that have businesses that are bigger and stronger than mine have gone through that.
Absolutely. You start to realize, like, the human experience isn't all so different. No matter what class you're born into, anything, and then especially the entrepreneurial journey. Like,
there are a lot of similarities in our
journeys. It's the roller coaster. Nobody's had a linear path.
Right.
You realize that, and then you add in mental health into the mix, and you start talking about that publicly, and all these hands raised, and hey man, I went through that too, and it's like I would never guess that this, the guy who I've put on a pedestal my whole life, like, struggles with the same things.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of what the mission of the Keep Going Foundation is just to break the stigma of, like, why do we make it so taboo about this, sickness above the shoulders that everybody deals with.
100%.
I haven't talked to a single person since I've been healthy again about my story and then be like, oh man, like I'm glad that you're okay, but like I just can't relate. Like I've just, you know what I mean?
Relate.
I don't understand. I've never been through anything like that. Yeah.
Never had anything bad happen to me. La, la, la. I'm not going to ask. I probably won't ask you any of these questions because they don't really apply. Because I want to hear more about what you're doing with the new foundation. So, tell me. Actually, I will ask you this. If you were, see if this has changed since your last time. If you were talking to someone that wanted to get started in running their own business, what's one bit of wisdom that you would tell them?
Do you have my answer from last time?
No, but
okay.
it's on the website because
Gotcha.
we transcribe all the things. So,
man, I would say make sure that you're very passionate about it.
Yeah.
And if you're in it, just think if you're just thinking about the money, like quit, go get a job. Right. Like if you're just trying to do your own thing because you see somebody on Instagram that looks like they're balling, like chances are they're probably full of shit.
Yeah, 100%.
And also they're probably stressed out of their mind. So if you're doing it just for the financial gain, I'd say go get a job. You can provide value for a company and make tremendous amounts of money, right? Oftentimes more than being an entrepreneur in for small local businesses.
100%.
But aside from that, I would say make sure that it's not from a spirit of like, I don't want a boss. I don't want anybody telling me what to do. I want to be my own boss, because when you become an entrepreneur, you have 1,000 bosses. They're called clients, and they run your life.
Yep.
So I've seen many people, and I've even been guilty in the past of like, well, I just want to make my own rules and, do what I want when I want. And it's like, okay, you think you're doing that, but then you step out, then you realize, oh, I used to report to one boss
now
who had 1,000 bosses. Now I'm the dude who has 1,000 bosses called clients. So that would be my 2 cents.
Yeah. Life is an Instagram account, so for sure.
Yeah.
What motivates you to work hard on your foundation?
Man, the reason why I do what I do is because I don't want anybody to sit on their couch for 2 years contemplating killing themselves every day. So the day that I felt better, the best way to describe it is I slept on the couch and I woke up and I didn't have like a fog around my brain for the first time in 2 years.
Okay.
And I thought I was getting sick because it felt so foreign to me. So I pull out my phone. I'm like, oh, I got to Uber eat some Dayquil from CVS. And so I'm scrolling, and about halfway through, I went, no, like this is the opposite.
Right.
I was kind of looking around. I felt crisp. I opened up my MacBook that I hadn't logged into in over a year. I couldn't even remember my password. Type it up. A real estate contract was pulled up from the last time I used it.
Wow.
I had a lot of deals under contract when I crashed and burned that I gave away to other agents because I was like, I want you to take care of these clients.
And you knew you couldn't.
I can't read a contract.
Yeah.
Stuff that I could do with my eyes closed in the past. And I was
Can you stop there for just 1 second? Because I don't think people realize what we're talking about. And that right there is what I'm talking about. For the longest time, I couldn't read a sheet of paper.
Yeah.
Without getting 2 words in and going, okay, now what do I need to do next?
And it sounds exaggerated.
I'm not fucking exaggerating.
It sounds exaggerated, but it's not the case.
And the word that I just used was for emphasis, like I'm not exaggerating. And I was telling you before this that there was something that happened like over Christmas break where it just kind of like just crystallized for me. Because because of what we went through, I'd been kind of spending the last half of not the last half, but the last quarter of the year just kind of like, whew, gosh, like, because
recovering.
you go through something traumatic like that, and you need a minute,
Yeah.
And
the chemicals have to balance back out.
But here's the other thing, and I was listening to Arnold Schwarzenegger's new book, of all people. Like I just, I'm a weightlifter. I'm a meathead from far back. I love Arnold. The voice just kind of soothes me.
Yeah.
And so, I was listening to it. And one of the things that I came to a conclusion about, and I don't know if it was something that he said or not, but that in times of trauma like that, the trauma fills every ounce of your space. So if it was a room like this, there would be no room for anything else.
Yep.
And it's not even a conscious thing. It just fills that space. And in order to run a business, you need to have white space, as we would call it in the design world, because you have to be able to think creatively. You have to be able to think outside of the box. You have to be able to look at things and be able to look 2 steps ahead.
Yep.
And when you're dealing with the trauma, it is everything.
I think the creative flow is completely off, and I think that's one reason why depression, anxiety will affect an entrepreneur so much more than maybe someone who works a 9 to 5, because you have to tap into that creativity and long-term planning every single day.
Yeah.
Whereas if I was working on, like, say, an assembly line or something, and I just went to the Ping manufacturing facility, that's what's popping in my head.
Yeah.
If I was putting together drivers all day, I could do that and still be depressed and anxious because I know I'm getting here at 9 and I'm just making drivers all day, then I'm clocking out.
Yeah.
Not that it's a quality life, but when I'm thinking about next year's product line as the owner of Ping, there's no room for that.
Big difference.
That's a great way to put it. Like, there was zero creative flow.
Yeah. And it's nothing you do can get you past that. So when he's talking about couldn't read contracts that he could recite forward and backward and upside down.
Yep.
Like I've read these questions, interviewing people over 250 times. We've done probably 250 episodes of this podcast, right? And I'm telling you, like a month ago, I would have sat here and been like, whew, man, okay. Like it would have just like really rattled my brain. So anyway, just as an aside, I'm sorry, and I completely interrupted you.
No, you're fine.
Because that's
important.
People I don't think they, kind of, get, and here we go again. I think that the other side of it too is that our temperament with people, because we were locked in cages for a year and a half, that our temperament with people has completely changed, and our ability to empathize.
Yeah, dude. I show so much more grace and have so much more like patience now, because I'm like, yo, this person's struggling. Because I can see it even when sometimes they might not even know yet, right? And whether that be now having children in my life as well with my girlfriend and things of that nature, it's just like there's such a deeper sense of understanding and realizing like what's really important in life.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
But that day when I
realized,
when I realized I felt better and looked at my computer, I'm like, okay, this is weird. Well, I looked at one of my bicycles that's on like a wall mount in my condo. Basically sits like parallel with the wall. The tire clips in. Well, it had 2 flat tires on it, and the entire front spokes, the spokes on the front tire were spider webbed over that I hadn't noticed in 2 years, right?
Wow.
Like Charlotte's Web thick level.
Because you used to ride hundreds of miles a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just felt a little whisper like, yo, get your ass on that bike seat and go ride it to raise money to help people not do what happened. And I went, all right, that sounds cool. Literally within the next 24 hours, I had a business plan written for the nonprofit. I had about 6 or 7 inbound calls with I finally picked up my phone for the first time, right? Word started spreading.
Yeah.
I had a Sprinter van from Mercedes. I had a box truck from International Trucking, all this stuff planning out.
Yeah.
And said, all right, well, I'm going to get on my bike next year and ride from Virginia Beach to Los Angeles, California in 30 days. And so that'll be November of this next year. I'm going to do it from November.
Of 2024? Nice.
And so that started to happen. All the stuff with Blackball Golf happened. We came up with these like ultimate men's health retreat weekends where we have like a keynote speaker come in on a Friday night with a dinner. Then Saturday is a golf clinic. Then Sunday is a tournament. But it's just about guys getting out, relaxing.
Yeah.
Like the game of golf has helped with my mental health so much. Just 1,000,001 things, right? And working with some large companies that I can't disclose yet, but a coffee franchise startup and a large fitness brand and a couple others just that are all going to also move towards the mission of, this mental health awareness journey that I'm on.
So how do you, this was a question that I was having with a friend of mine because, I've been getting a lot of inquiries about coaching. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, people like advice and they feel like I give good advice. I'm old. I've lived a lot. And so
you're not that old.
And so, but one of the things that we were talking about was, especially with guys, it is extremely difficult to get guys to a point where they feel comfortable being vulnerable enough to where you can deal with the issues that are at hand. And going and dealing with some of the stuff, I mean, we're having to go back into like, I'm not a psychologist, but I'm going back into people's like childhoods.
For sure.
Oh,
it all goes back to childhood.
Yeah, you didn't know where your next meal came from, and you wonder why you overeat. Or why
you feel guilty if you don't clean the plate off every time, right? You go out to a restaurant.
Children in Africa are dying of starving of hunger, or you don't have a relationship with this parent or that parent, and so your relationship with that gender or sex is not it's not healthy, or you depend too much on them or something like that. It's like all these things. And so, but man, that requires like some trust and some vulnerability. And it's just like getting people to that point where you can deal with it.
I don't know if I was just so full of pride and ego, because I would not display it outwardly, right?
Right.
People would tell you I was very humble. I was always philanthropy minded, all these things. But I had my own ways of feeding my ego, right? Like I was never the dude who was going to snap up an Instagram pic on the stairs of the PJ, right? But I was going to make damn sure that you saw the wing of it in the back of a vlog.
Yeah.
Right? All these things to feed the ego and make me feel successful because I was insecure on the inside, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, and I know guys that have it 100 times worse than I did, right? And me even thinking that I'm at a lower level, I don't know that I could have ever been broken of it unless I was literally like
broken.
Brought down to zero. You know what I mean? And I hope that people can learn, or that we can devise strategies and stuff to let people see like, hey, listen, just go ahead and make these adjustments before you hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you'll learn the lesson if you hit rock bottom, but I promise you don't want to go there to learn it.
You really don't want to go there.
And so it's like, I don't know that I could have without that, because like it used to have to be the Andy V show on anything I'm involved with, right? Like, all right, well, I've got to be the quarterback of this deal if I'm going to be involved in it. Now I'm like, yo, I want to work towards a mission with other people. I don't care who gets credit for it.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm interested in that end result. I'm also interested in raising a family, having a healthy marriage one day, traveling, being involved with my church, all these philanthropies. Like, there's so much. My picture of success now is such a 360-degree viewpoint, rather than I just want to be the hustling, grinding entrepreneur who sprinkles a little bit in philanthropy on the side and, maybe has a wife and kids, but they just know this is part of what they signed up for, right? Like,
Right.
I'm not going to name any names, but one guy who I really looked up to, who mentored me and all that, like, I came back on the scene and got on social media and realized, like, he's left his wife and kids and now has an Instagram model that's 30 years younger than him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I used to look at this guy as if he was a god for his genius in one area of his life,
Yeah.
but not realizing me mimicking just that one area was also crumbling my other areas that have now crumbled in his life.
Yeah. No, I get it. Well, back to the questions. Are there any books, podcasts, people, or organizations that have been helpful in moving you forward?
Man, I haven't read really any books yet since I've been back, other than the Bible.
You can't. Yeah, no, I mean,
I haven't had time.
Yeah, I would imagine it was difficult during.
Haven't had time. Couple of podcasts.
People.
So my church has a podcast, Homestead Mobile, a guy named Damon Thompson. So Damon Thompson Ministries, that's been the most pivotal thing for me.
Nice.
It's literally like I've come into this community and it's like he's reading the way that I've always thought and felt about things.
Yeah.
It's confirmation on a lot, right? So that's been the main focus over the past 3 months. But I am going to relaunch my podcast as well. It's just going to be a huge pivot. So it's not just a health and fitness podcast moving forward. It's a mental health focus, and health and fitness is one pillar of that.
Right. Nice. What's the most important? Well, we've already talked about that. All right. So I've got 12 rapid fire questions. This is new to the podcast. So this is just real quick. All right. So favorite type of music?
I'm all over the place. Can I just do a favorite artist right now?
Yeah.
Zach Bryan.
Okay. What's your favorite type of food?
Fish, seafood.
Favorite restaurant in Lower Alabama? Gonna make some enemies.
You're going to get me in trouble, dude.
Yeah, I am. Doesn't mean that he doesn't like the other ones, but there's always one that just.
If we want to laugh, and be a horrible example of supporting local, like who gets the most of my dollars is Tzatziki's in Legacy Village. I'm just gonna be honest. And the funny thing is, like, when I'm traveling on the road so much now, like, I go to Tzatziki's too,
home.
and I always put on my Instagram story, I'm like, be sure to support local. Like, no matter where I go, I'm eating Tzatziki's.
Yeah. No, but the favorite is that your answer?
Yep, I'm sticking with it.
All right. Favorite city outside of Mobile?
Nashville, Tennessee.
All right. City you want to travel to but have yet to visit?
Park City, Utah.
What comes to mind when you say guilty? When I say guilty pleasure?
Now versus back in the day. Back in the day, I would say a fat joint. Now I would say ice cream.
Okay. Favorite flavor?
Mint chocolate
12
chip.
and a half, I guess.
Mint chocolate chip.
Mint chocolate
and
chip.
it's slept on. It's so underrated. I get judged for it. I'm like, have you ever had it?
Which one?
Mint chocolate chip.
Yeah, no, I've had it.
There's a
before.
lot of haters.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan.
See? Another hater. Hey, I don't complain because it's never not on the shelves.
Yeah, no, I get it. But
What's your favorite?
Recently, somebody, Michelle Pavernob, who runs the gymnastics school here, introduced us to the brand Tillamook. I think, I don't know how to pronounce it. I think it's out of the Northwest. They don't carry that many flavors in the stores around here, but they have a strawberry that is just like the
I do like a good
that
strawberry ice cream. Does it have pieces of strawberry in it?
It doesn't.
I love strawberry ice cream that has that.
I get you. Breyers does a good job of that, I think. But this one the vanilla is so good that it's based on, and the strawberry is so faint that it tastes like homemade.
Gotcha.
So it's good
I'll
stuff.
give it a try. Hey,
Yeah.
I'm a connoisseur, man. I'm willing to try. Yeah, anything.
Dogs, cats, or none of the above?
Dogs.
Summer or winter?
Summer.
Favorite movie or TV show?
The Greatest Showman.
I like that answer. Not expected. Favorite holiday?
Christmas.
Favorite color?
Black.
Yeah. Favorite cereal?
Ooh, the Special K with the chunks of strawberry in it.
What is it with you and strawberry chunks?
Dude, I like it chunky, man.
And the funny thing, that was 12 and a half. And so I'll add this about strawberries. Chrissy was giving me a hard time because I love strawberries.
Yeah.
And if you take them and you smell the pint, that's how if they don't smell anything like strawberries, they will never smell like strawberries and they will never taste like strawberries. So they'll be too tart or bitter or whatever.
Yeah.
But if you get them and you can smell them and you get that kind of like strawberry kind of scent from them, then you know that even if they're not ripe at that moment, that they'll be sweet and eat. But man, like for the longest time, even for months after they stopped smelling good, I was still buying them because it was just kind of like, man, I miss them, like strawberries.
I sat down with Skip Platt. I don't know if y'all have ever crossed paths. He's a guy in Saraland. He's been on Ninja Warrior and stuff, but he's just a very holistic wellness. He's an expert, right? On red light, diet, everything.
Wow.
And we were talking about seasonal eating and, fasting basically while the sun's down and changing your eating windows, different seasons. And he was basically broke the news of like, yo, dude, you shouldn't be eating fruit right now that isn't, naturally growing. And I went,
there's
because I told him when I sat down, I was like, hey, dude, you tell me what to do. I'm going to do it because
there's not
you're
much
the expert.
in season
I'm
right
not
now.
here. Exactly.
Yeah, so it's like,
I'm like, dude, that's my, that's why ice creams came back in the picture. Because normally it'd be like watermelon, right? I'm like, okay, well, this is my treat.
Or some grapes. Or,
try not to eat it now, which I know ice cream isn't the answer for that. But when you said that, I'm like, I get it because I literally am learning that. And like, if you taste watermelon this time of year, it's not even the same fruit.
No.
Yeah. It's
you say that, but we got one from Publix like 2 weeks ago, and it was the best watermelon I've ever had.
Don't tell me that, dude, because now I'm gonna break my protocol. Sorry, Skip.
So sorry, Skip. All right, and then another question. So, what are you most thankful for?
Family, Christ, and this community. Without those three, I would not be here.
Yeah.
And I still almost wasn't multiple times with that, but thank God that they are here.
I'm glad they were too. So tell people where they can find you.
Man, I almost told my old Instagram handle, which is hilarious because it goes right into this whole thing, right?
Yeah.
I didn't get back on social media for like a month after I felt better because I couldn't find a name that wasn't already taken, that wasn't my old name, right. The Andy Vickers. I'm like, okay.
It was a limitation. I know it wasn't. I don't know that it was necessarily.
I never did that
thing.
intentionally, and it didn't start out as that. It started out because I was late to the social media game. Right. So every version was. That's where nobody called me Andy growing up. My name's Andrew.
Right.
No version of Andrew Vickers was there that didn't have 20 numbers at the end that was tacky. So I started it as Andy. And then it became this thing where people who met me on the internet before real life, I just became Andy.
Yeah.
My mom hates it, actually.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So should we call you Andrew?
No, I like Andy. My mom would prefer everybody call me Andrew.
Sorry,
but
Mom.
It's easier to sign, too.
Yeah.
But anyways, all that to say, I was like, even little subtle things like I don't want to be the Andy Vickers. I ain't shit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's keep.going.andy on socials.
Very cool. Man, I want to say I am really glad that I started with you. You know.
Thanks.
I
didn't even realize I was the first.
Yeah, you're the first.
Oh, man.
Yeah, no
and this is my first podcast in like 3 years, so it's just magical.
I know. So, I want to thank you again for coming on the podcast. To wrap up, any final thoughts or comments you'd like to share?
Man, just if anybody that's listening to this episode is struggling with their mental health or anything, reach out to me, message me. My number's public.
Yeah.
For these reasons, don't send me a text if you're some shawty because I'm taken. But if it's and don't fake a mental health issue just to talk to me.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
But all that to say, that's my life mission. Keep Going Foundation is going to raise money for mental health services, whether that be for, working class people who don't have access to health insurance through Victory Health. We do that. Another organization, One More Moment, that is equipping parents with the resources for adolescents and children who are dealing with it. Mm-hmm. Because we got to remove that taboo of I just have the problem kid. It's why are they the problem kid? You know what I mean? And also, how do you approach it to let a kid know, the same thing they're feeling when their iPad dies and their world is falling down is the same emotional response to when their boss calls them into their office one day and says, hey man, sorry, but we got to let you go. Then he has to go home and tell his wife that they're not going to be able to put food on the table next week.
Yeah.
It's all the same thing. So how do we teach kids to start dealing with this with healthy practices before adulthood really kicks them?
Yeah.
Then a ton with working with athletes with past head traumas and things of that nature, as well as like veterans.
Nice.
So anything across the spectrum that pertains to mental health, like if we can help, or if you just need someone to talk to, like feel free to reach out.
Nice. Well, Andy, I appreciate your willingness to sit with me and share your journey, man. It has been an absolute blast talking to you, and I'm just thankful that you're here.
Thanks for having me, man. Keep going.